Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to be back in the saddle again and drawing and painting. Got my studio mostly set up and everything. So today we're going to do a really fun drawing together. We're going to draw Ms. Marvel. So I'm just going to start off by roughing in her general shape here. I start with a little rough oval for her head and follow the line of her spine down to try and copy her stance. I've got to apologize for the placement of my book here. I've placed it wrong, so it's going to cut off her feet a bit, but in a couple of minutes that's going to pick back up and it'll be all right. Now I'm just drawing lightly here. I'm using a relatively hard pencil, a 4H pencil. I don't want to make too much of a mess on my paper while I'm figuring out where everything's going to go, so I'm just keeping everything simple. A nice line for straight across for where I want her shoulders to go. Just giving myself an idea of her stance here. Now, as I'm drawing, I'm seeing that I've got her stance messed up a little bit. She's leaning back a little too far. It gives her a bit of a thug-like appearance, but you know what? It's not. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I can totally make a bit of a thug Ms. Marvel. Now, this isn't the only Ms. Marvel. I don't know that much about this character, but I do know that Ms. Marvel is more of a title. There were several different characters who filled the role of Miss Marvel through the years. The one that I'm drawing is Carol Danvers from the 80s. Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel in the 70s and the 80s. Later on, there was, what's her name? Sharon Ventura, and there were a couple of others. I picked this one because Carol Danvers was the first Ms. Marvel, which I like. I did not go with the first graphic of Ms. Marvel because, well, honestly, I went with the 80s Ms. Marvel because I absolutely love 80s comic art. I just love the style. It's fantastic. So as cool as the 1970s Carol Danvers is, I went for the 80s version. So here you can see that I've roughed in basically where everything's going to go so I can start adding in some harder or more definite lines, filling in the outlines of her arms and legs, of her torso. So once I've got the outline of her body down, and I'm happy with that, I'm going to start adding lines for her costume. Here I'm pretty happy with the major lines, so I'm going to go ahead and erase all of my guidelines that I don't need anymore. So here I'm going to take a couple of minutes to work on her face. I'm really sorry about my big head in the camera. I'm nearsighted, but I don't know, but what do you want from me? And again, as I get more certain of things, I can start using harder lines. So here you can see that I've, or you can sort of see, I switched to a softer pencil. I switched to a 5 or a 6B, so I could get some really nice, dark, full-looking lines for a nice dynamic outline and some nice bold shading. Okay, time to do her hair, and I have to make a little note on Ms. Marvel's hair here. I'm sure anybody else who is also a fan of 80s comics, or 80s comic book art at least, has noticed this, this hair trend. It's like all Marvel ladies have to have this nebulous cloud of like super buxom, voluminous hair that like bounds around their head like a Saint Bernard. So don't shy away from that. Lean into it. You don't want to skimp on the 80s hair here. Ms. Marvel is no exception. And I can see I sort of messed up on her chin here. She looks a little bit more like Mr. T, but I'm going to fix that in a second. You're going to see it'll go right away. We're coming up here on one of my favorite parts of doing a drawing like this. The technique, which I very technically call scribble shading. This is not my medium. I paint. I just draw for fun. I'm not a professional artist when it comes to drawing and graphite. I don't do it a lot. I don't know what you call this, but I like to call it scribble shading. Mostly because I'm trying to remind myself that it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just trying to use big, bold hatches to fill in the black areas of this drawing. Her costume's mostly black, so I'm scribble shading in all of the areas that don't essentially have that shine on them. Her boots, too, everything's black, so we got lots of practice scribble shading. I got so carried away, I almost forgot to finish her hair up here. So I'm going to go back up there and finish her billowing locks. Plus, I can't forget as well to shade in her mask, which is also black. So there we go, she's basically done. Here is my finished drawing. I'm relatively happy with it. My mess up with her posture a little bit makes her look a bit more like Tina Turner in Beyond Thunderdome, but I'm okay with it. It works. It's a good look for her. I hope you guys had a good time today. I really did. I miss these little sketching videos. And a shout out as well to one of my viewers, Alex, who had requested that I do this video. He's got a YouTube channel as well. I don't have the link up in the description yet, but I will add it in none too long. Once again, thanks so much for joining me. Have a totally awesome day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.